Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh everyone. So in this video, our group, which is group 9, will be presenting and talking about a play titled Translations by Friel. Okay, so I will talk and present about the historical and cultural context that in the parts of introduction of translation by Friel. So this place explores the deep impacts of British colonization on Ireland, focusing on language, identity and culture. So let's start with the historical context first. For historical context, the first point is British colonization of Ireland. So in the 19th century, Ireland was under British rule. So during this time, English was enforced as the official language. So this policy had led to the suppression of Irish, also known as Gaelic, which was the heart of Irish culture and communication. So the British aimed to erase Ireland's linguistic identity to establish stronger control over the country. And then the Ordnance Survey. A significant event related to this period is the Ordnance Survey, which is also depicted in the play. British soldiers were tasked with mapping Ireland, but this wasn't just a practical task. Place names in Irish were often replaced with English ones, removing their original cultural meanings. So this was more than a mapping project. It was a systematic erasure of Irish heritage. And then the last point for historical context is the potato famine that happened in 1845 to 1852. So though this occurred slightly after the play setting, the potato famine is a key historical event that intensified tensions. So it caused widespread starvation and poverty among the Irish, largely due to British policies that prioritized exports over local survival. So this famine symbolized the suffering of Irish communities under British rule. So now we move on to cultural context. Okay, the first point is language and identity. So Irish or Gaelic wasn't just a language, it was a vital part of Irish identity and culture. So the play emphasized this by showing how the replacement of Irish place names with English one wasn't just a loss of words. So it was a loss of history, memory and also pride. So the character struggles reflect the deep connection between language and self. And then the second is education. So during this period, Hatch schools were common in Ireland. So these were informal schools where Irish children were taught in Gaelic, despite English being the enforced language. So in the play, the Hatch school represent resistance, that people fighting to preserve their language and culture even under pressure. And then the last one is colonial tension. The play captures the conflict between the British imperialism and Irish efforts to maintain their identity. So the British sought control through cultural assimilation, while the Irish resisted by holding on to their language and traditions. So this clash is central to the play, making it a powerful exploration of colonialism. So that is for the introduction.
Alright, hello everyone. I'm the second presenter that will be presenting about the summary of the play. Okay, the play opens in a rural community where the inhabitants are primarily Irish speakers and education centers around the Hatch School. Key characters include Owen O'Donnell, who returns from Dublin, his father Hugh, the schoolmaster, Mare, a local woman, and Lieutenant Yolland, an English officer. The characters' interactions highlight the cultural and linguistic barriers that define their relationships. As the British soldiers begin their work, tensions arise between the locals and the English. Owen acts as a translator between both cultures but struggles with his identity as he witnesses the implication of colonization on his community. A central plot point is the bonding romance between Mare and Yolland, which symbolizes a desire for connection that transcends language yet underscores their cultural divide. Through its unique linguistic structure, the play explores miscommunication and cultural identity. Although performed mainly in English, it suggests that characters are speaking their native tongues. creating a profound disconnect that mirrors real historical tensions between Irish and English speakers.
Now I will continue with the key themes of the play. Language as cultural identity. In the play translations by Friel, language is not just a communication tool, but it is more than that. The Irish language holds a significant part as it represents the Irish cultural identity. However, because of the colonization that occurred in the play, Anglicization happened when the Ordnance Survey mapping project of Ireland in the 1830s was changed from the Irish language to the English language. This shows how colonial powers erased the indigenous identity and changed their language and structures with the colonizers' language and culture. This can be seen in the play when Owen, who becomes the translator for the British people, helps Yolande to translate the Bailey-Biggs map points into the English language. For example, by translating the Irish language to English language, like Knockban would become Fair Hill. The Anglicization of Irish place names was part of a colonial strategy and shows the power of language that holds the culture's identity. In this process, the British colonizers used their power to rename the Irish places and change the uniqueness of the original name of the place in the Irish language.
Okay, next we went to the theme loss and change in the translations play. So the Brian Friel's translations poignantly captures the themes of loss and change as it explores the transformative impact of colonialism and cultural shifts on individuals and communities. The play underscores how progress and adaptation often come at the cost of cultural identity, traditions, and personal connections, revealing the tensions between embracing new opportunities and mourning what is left behind. Okay, so we went to the. Okay, so let's go to the loss and of personal relationships, where loss and change are often depicted as unbreakable factors, altering the characters' lives and the fate of their society. The play demonstrates how the pursuit of development frequently requires the sacrifice of identity, traditions, and personal connections. So the personal loss is intricately woven into the narrative as the characters' relationships are strained by cultural and societal changes, such as the Mayor and Yolande's relationship, where the romance connection between Mayor and Irish woman and Yolande, an English soldier, symbolizes the possibility of bridging cultural divides. However, their inability to communicate fully and the tensions between their communities underscore the fragility of such connections, ultimately leading to their separation. So, and also we have the Menace is isolation, where Menace experiences personal loss as he watches Mare drift toward Yolande. His inability to adapt to change and seize opportunities leaves him emotionally and socially isolated. Okay, so we also have the pain of progress, where while changes frequently create opportunity, translations emphasizes the pain and sacrifices that come with development. This can be observed in the confrontation between the generations and the unavoidable changes, which grieve the cultural and emotional consequences of this transition. Portraying change as both necessary and tragic. Okay, so for the conflict between generations, younger characters like Mare view change as a necessary step towards modernity, while older characters like Hugh lament the loss of tradition and identity. This generational divide underscores the tension between looking forward and holding on to the past. Okay, so for the unavoidable change, the play acknowledges the inevitability of change as seen in the shift from Irish to English as the dominant language. However, it mourns the cultural and emotional cost of this transition that portrays change as both necessity and a tragedy. Okay, so to conclude, for the theme part, in translations, Brian Friel explores the loss of language and cultural identity as central aspects of postcolonialism. The replacements of Irish place names and the dominance of English symbolizes the cultural erasure that often experienced in colonial contexts. This loss is intertwined with forced changes, reflecting the struggle between preserving traditions and adapting to the realities of colonial influence. The play underscores the enduring effects of colonialism on identity, language, and relationships that highlights the complexities of navigating a post-colonial world. Okay, so let's move on to the conclusion.
Alright, everyone. So, in conclusion, Brian Friel's play Translations offers a deep look at the complicated relationships between language, identity, and cultural change in a post-colonial setting. Friel encourages audiences to think about their own cultural stories and the need to protect language and heritage in a world that is becoming more uniform due to globalization. By addressing these important themes, Translations remain a relevant exploration of how language influences our understanding of ourselves and our connection with others in a constantly changing world.